Hi there, I'm Lisa Taylor, and welcome to Choose to Be You. If you are a member of our community, you know very well that I am a firm believer in the fact that we need to courageously choose to be who God made us to be. We need to courageously step into that authentic place of our true being. So many people in the world are struggling with being happy, feeling fulfilled, finding life purpose. And science shows that it comes down to, do you really know who you are? Do you really know what you want? Well, over my life, I have struggled mightily with these questions, as we all do. And I've come up with 3 simple steps to get to this level of clarity. Getting clear about who you are and what you want, being consistent in a daily practice that helps you get to that clarity, and then courageously going out and contributing your true authentic self to the world, because that's what's needed. The world has need of you being you. Well, recently I did a 5-hour live event and I invited 9 global thought leaders to the table to talk about this very subject, choose to be you, and courageously choosing to be who God made us to be. So I welcome you to listen to these interviews. I'm bringing them to you one by one. So let's now begin with the next introduction.
My next guest is actually a friend of mine who I met actually on the last series I did, the Intuition Chronicles. And he is a serial entrepreneur of 7 companies worth a combined $1 billion. Yes, I did say billion. He's a New York Times bestselling author of 3 Simple Steps and Secrets to a Successful Startup, both fabulous books. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend them. He never works more than 5 hours a day. He has lots of tips and tricks on that. He has a 36-year marriage and has time to devote to his passions for animals and nature. He actually will not go a day without that. And not only does he have a background in radiation physics and nuclear medicine, he teaches quantum physics and helps people understand how changing their relationship with energy can easily lead to success with balance. Please welcome to the studio, Trevor Blake. Trev,
hi, Lisa.
How are you?
Doing great, thanks.
So nice to see you.
I really enjoyed that Terry Lynn session, actually. I think Terry Lynn is a secret quantum physicist.
I think so too. Yeah, no, I absolutely do. I think people who abide in this realm, you like to call magicians, people who abide, wizards, people who abide in this realm, I think have that understanding, and it's almost doesn't matter what you call it. It's all the same truth, right? So you have a bit to say about that.
Well, I think we're more alike than different. I mean, just like Terry Lynn, I get my best ideas in the shower, and Terry Lynn says, that comes from God. I don't use the word God because I don't understand it, because sometimes religions have their own definition of God, and I never want to offend anybody. So I call it life, whatever you call it, whatever label you give. Really, I don't suppose matter. I meditate too. I look for synchronicity and confirmation in it, in everything, just the same as Terry Lynn is explaining. It's the same process, I think. I look at it from a physics standpoint, perhaps. It's just a different angle to the same magic. To the same sacred access, if you want to call it like that. I love nature. I recommend everybody immerses in nature on a regular basis. I write blogs instead of pulpit sermons. What's the difference?
Right, it's the same. It's the same, and people get wisdom from that as well.
Yeah, and so I'm very big on people being selfless all the time, and to pay attention to themselves a little bit. And, feel free to say no. It's very, very important from a physics standpoint, and also align yourself. So Terry Lynn would say, to manifest to your greatness, and I always say, so you can be the best of your version, if you like. So it's funny, we're more alike than different, I think, which is fantastic.
So I know you do spend a lot of time in nature. You try to get out into nature every day, and you meditate every day. But I really want to kind of circle back around on the physics, the way you describe things in physics. The last time we spoke, you talked about the Higgs Field, and it was kind of the first time I'd understood how do we not live in a dualistic thought process where this really is what is, and it's not like, oh, there's a spiritual me kind of over there, and there's a physical me over here. When you look at it in quantum physics, it's all one. Can you
right? And I think if we had this conversation in 1970, we'd both be labeled as New Age quacks or something like that.
Right, of course.
Now we can talk from a scientific standpoint. So in 2012, until 2012, there was this massive debate that went on for almost a century about what's between the things that we understand? So these particles that we can identify and measure, what's between it? Is it empty space, or is there something gluing it all together? And finally, in 2012, they confirmed that there is something gluing it together, and they have to give it a name, right? So it's physics.
Yes, of
You've
course.
got to try and
It has to be after a
protect
guy.
your fiefdom with sort of, complicated acronyms and things like that. So they named it after the Scottish scientist who put the mathematical formula together that was finally confirmed, and his name was Higgs. So it gets called the Higgs Field. Okay, and that's all it is. Most things in physics are named after the discoverer. I wish they would name them after their first name, so just call him Bob or Stephen. It'd be so much easier to remember. Yeah, exactly. It'd be so much more. It would be less threatening, I think.
Right.
And so they discovered this Higgs field, which is basically just a very, very low energy, and it connects everything to everything throughout the universe, not just in our planet and our existence, but throughout the universe. And the more we interact with it, the more, as particles or collections of particles, which we are, the more we slow down. The more we slow down, the more physical our experience. So you and I and all of us who are here today have slowed down quite a bit through, I like to call it cosmic glue because it's easier to visualize.
Yeah.
So we slow down in this cosmic glue and we have a more physical experience. If we were to step out of the cosmic glue, not that you can really, but if we were to go to a different dimension, we'd shoot through the universe at the speed of light, and we'd have a very light experience. And that's obviously, an experience that people have when they're no longer in the physical world. Once they transition to another dimension, then they shoot off at the speed of light and don't have this heavy weight on the shoulders that we have to live a three-dimensional experience. So that's all it is. But knowing about it opens up all kinds of possibilities for improving the way we communicate with each other, but also through this Higgs field, we can develop ways to extend our senses and deepen our connection to our intuition, which is so, so important, particularly in the business world, which is where I spend most of my time. So important to understand that the magic comes from intuition, not from analysis. And so I use the Higgs field deliberately. I deliberately imagine it and place myself in it, and I throw my problem out there. And then I go for a walk in the woods, and the solution shows up.
When you say you place yourself in there, what does that look like? How do you do that?
I think of it like porridge or oatmeal.
As a true Brit, you would, right?
That way. Yeah. So I'll meditate, and then after meditating, I know I've got an issue that I've got a big one right now in one of my companies. Not an issue; it's a great opportunity, but I need to figure it out. And I'm not qualified to figure it out. I'm never qualified to run any of my companies, and so I need more people who know what they're doing, whether they're alive or whether they're from the past or whether they're from the future. I need that wisdom. Now, Terry Lynn might say, well, that's God talking to you sacred. I don't mind where it comes from, so long as I get the answer.
Right. You can call it whatever you want. I just want an answer, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
So how does perception play a part in this? Because I'm perceiving that we are physical, that we're 3D, right? But if in actuality the energy sped up, I wouldn't perceive 3 dimensions. I would perceive just energy. It wouldn't look physical. So where does perception fall in the formula here?
It's kind of like being in lockdown. It's like being in a mental and spiritual lockdown, being here on Earth to an extent.
Okay.
Because we understand ourselves as 3-dimensional beings, but we're not. So from a physics standpoint, there's a sort of a sub-study of quantum physics called string theory. And it doesn't mean the world is made of string, although it'd be fun if it was. But it basically means that everything in the universe is made up of jiggling strings of energy. Everything. The desk I'm touching here is made up of jiggling strings of energy, same as the trees behind me. They're just vibrating at slightly different vibrations of frequencies. And that leads to philosophical conversation, doesn't it? You think, okay, I need to be a bit kinder to my desk. And,
right. Well, it's kind of the KonMari thanking the socks when you put it
exactly. So everything it has this it's made of jiggling strings of energy. But string theory also shows us that everything exists in at least 10 dimensions, and today they're starting to say at least 28 dimensions. And
at the same time.
At the same time.
Okay.
And that's mind-boggling, because we can only, you and I, we have 3 dimensions. We have, width, depth, and height, and that's pretty much it. Unless you learn, there's special people on this earth who are able to use different parts of the brain that then allows them to extend beyond our 3 dimensions and experience life in other dimensions. But it's a fantastic thought, because it means, okay, if you can do that, if you can communicate into another dimension, and let's say I had a winning idea for a company, and I'm looking at this dimension, I'm thinking, my God, I'm taking on something amazing here. I'll need $1 billion to set it up. It's going to be so complicated. If I go into another dimension that doesn't have physicality, I can set it up there, and it has no choice but to show up in front of me. So it makes life a lot easier for me.
Whoa.
I don't have to try so hard.
Okay, so how do you set it up there?
Say again?
How do you do that? How do you set it up?
Purely with your imagination.
Just imagination. Okay, so if I have a dream of something, I can envision. If I can envision it, and I can imagine it, and I imagine it really clearly, and I start acting as though it's real, it's going to show up.
It has no choice. It's a physical process. No, it's a physical process because the laws of energy say that energy can either be created nor destroyed. So you can't create something from nothing, even though people talk about doing that. It can only be reformed into another form or format. So basically energy becomes physical. So energy becomes its physical equivalent. And our thoughts and words are the same. Our thoughts and words have measurable energy in them, goes out to the universe, comes back and gives us what we've been thinking about. That's critical to know, because if all our thoughts about what we don't have or we don't want, we just get more of that.
Right. So you like what you focus on expands, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so you start to. So when you understand this interaction with energy, you just slightly change your behavior in a way. You know, like I'll have a thought and I'll think, hang on a sec, that's not in my best interest. I'll change that thought because I want this to happen. And so when I start a company, the very first thing I do is imagine its successful outcome. What does that mean to me? So my very first company in 2002, I started with $200, but I was already imagining selling it for at least 100 million. I sold it in the end for 105.5 million 6 years later. And everyone said, oh, that's brilliant. It's such a short space of time. But we're living in an era of fast energy where that's now a long time. You can do that in a matter, you can sit in front of your computer and engage the world now. So we're seeing a lot of examples of people coming up with great ideas and 2 years later selling it for 500 million. It's a whole new world now. I've had to learn to adapt to this world.
You've talked a lot about sort of the whole planet kind of shifting from masculine energy to feminine energy, which is a much more sort of swirling energy. Can you talk a little bit about that for those who might not have heard this concept?
Yeah, because it's a physics concept, and energy flows, and it flows in waves, and you can't do anything about it. You can't resist it. And if you learn to flow with it, you can have a pretty enjoyable life. If you try to resist it, it could be pretty tough, actually. It feels like being in quicksand all the time. And so, there's all kinds of cycles of energy. There's short ones, medium, long terms one. And one of the longest term ones that we deal with is basically, it's an 800-year energy cycle. And so go back to 1200s, time of the Templars. Since then to now, it's been a very male-dominated universe. We all know that. We've got the history books that show that, and we all feel it in the workplace and at home. That's shifting completely. So we give them labels, and I actually don't like the labels masculine and feminine, because you end up getting into gender discussions, and that's not what it's about. But if you think, so the masculine energy as it's described is very linear, very flat, and very slow. And most women in the world will say, yes, we know that. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Are you talking about my husband? My wife would say, well, yeah, so that's my husband you're talking about. Because I'm a clipboard guy, right? So I can do one thing at a time. Don't talk to me while I'm trying to fry an egg. I'm that simple. So I do one thing at a time. And that's how the world has been for the longest time. We build runways and freeways and straight lines, railway lines, and we build hierarchical business structures. They're all crumbling away. The way we transport is changing, the way we do business is changing, the way we'll do leisure and work at home is changing. And it's changing because that cycle's over, and we've moved into what people are calling a feminine cycle. And that's a very fast-paced energy, and it's spiraling, and it's also very flat, and it's breathless. And you can, I think everyone can feel it, because change is happening so quickly now, particularly in my world. New technologies are invented every day that can theoretically catapult my business to multi-billions, or can put me out of business, overnight. And I have to learn to adapt to that. So that means a different business structure, a different management style, a different way of doing things. And so that's why I find physics works really well with business. If you can understand that everything's energy and try to change the way you work or interact with the energy as the energy changes, then you won't get left behind. And I just turned 60 a week ago. I've never been so excited in all my life. I'm so excited about the next 30 years. And I want to be part of this. I want to have my 15th, 16th, 17th company, and I want to be part of this spiraling energy. So, but if you're not aware of it, it's a bit like being hit by a tsunami. And I think a lot of people feel that this year. They weren't expecting, the political circus that we're having to be aware of. I don't watch the news, but you can't escape it. And they certainly weren't ready for a pandemic, even though this is the 12th that I've experienced in my 60 years. They weren't ready for it, or the reaction to it, and it's thrown people off a little bit. But this is all part of this changing energy. Things change really fast, and once you know that that's happening, then you can use certain tools and techniques to be prepared for what's changing. And then instead of hiding behind the sofa for the next 4 or 5 years, you can be at the forefront with your eyes wide open. And history will show there's never been a better chance to reinvent yourself and achieve rapid success How have you, you define success in art, crafts, music? It really doesn't matter. There'll never be a better time than right now. And I keep trying to get this message out to people. Don't hide behind the sofa. This is your best.
That's your next book. Don't have, but you have to find, somehow you have to find 3 S's. I don't know. You have a thing about S's.
I think I do. And 3s. Well, 3s.
Your book titles, right?
3's a
3
sacred
simple
number.
steps. Secrets to a successful startup, right?
And Success with Balance is my next one, but I've only just
Is it really?
Yeah.
Success with Balance. I like that. All right. So I'm mindful of the clock because the last time we talked, we ended up doing 2 full shows together because we were chatting so much. So I have to keep you to a half an hour. So I have 2 things. One, I want you to talk about, you just wrote an article recently and it showed up on medium.com. And if you don't know Medium, go to Medium and follow Trevor because he's amazing. You talked about sort of the energy of money. So I want you to talk about that. And I also want you to talk about because you have this whole course on transformation, I want to get into that. So let's spend a little bit of time on money and then I want to get into transformation, which kind of focuses a little bit more on this topic.
Okay, well, money is easy to talk about for me, but interestingly, all the surveys show that people would rather talk about their sex lives than talk about money.
Yeah.
Or tell you what the mortgage payment is that they have. And,
why? Why are we so private about it?
I think there's the fear of success and fear of failure, and it's embarrassing. You know, if someone in your family is doing really well, but you're in debt, it's embarrassing. And I've been in debt. I've been in serious debt, and I know how it feels. It really weighs you down in the quicksand. So I think that's part of it, but I think society also, and religion to an extent. I wish Terry Lynn was still here, because religion also, gives this impression that money is a bad thing. Whereas if you take the religious text, like King James I, who was 6th of Scotland, 1st of England, if you take his Bible and you take it back to the original Aramaic, it actually never mentions money. It never mentions wealth. It talks about being the best version of yourself, and it talks about that the root to evil is not money but avarice, greed, and we know that's a good message, but it got changed over time to make people think badly about money, and it's a stigma that sticks with us over the centuries. But the thing is, money is just energy like everything else, and energy has to flow, and if it flows to you and you grab it and you stagnate with it, then it'll just diminish. It's like putting a log in a stream. So you have to allow money to flow through your life, and therefore you have to be very comfortable talking about money. And most people will, right now, I'm sure some people are cringing because it sounds crass to talk about money.
Yeah.
But if you don't talk about money and you're not comfortable with the flow of money, you don't understand the energy of money, you're probably never going to have it. So what is financial freedom? It's not about having $1 billion like a pile of gold coins that you sit on a throne. It's having money that you put to work. Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos don't sit on piles of money. They get piles of money and they put it to work in different things. Some things work, some things don't work, but you have to keep money flowing. So money is an essential part of our lives. We can't exist without it, even though I think cash is about to become a thing of the past.
Yeah.
As we go into a sort of a decentralized finance world. It doesn't matter what the source is or what the labels are and like that. You just have to understand. So when I first started, I was in debt and I had, my salary was £7,000 a year when I first started.
Oh, wow.
1981. Yeah, I was working for the National Health Service. It's a great place to work, but you're never going to get rich there. So the money, I had to learn to respect money and to be proud of it and to like money and to want money. And when I started to do that, suddenly I had 32,000 and then 60,000 and then 300,000. But at no point did I put my hands around it and say, okay, that's enough. I'll sit on this now. It's all putting it to work.
You're a big proponent of getting yourself out of debt. Is that?
I think that, I mean, not in business, because debt in business is a different type of debt.
Right. No, but personal debt.
Yeah, we use it to leverage. But personal debt, I think, is one of the heaviest, most stressful things you can have. And in the world today, most people are in personal debt. And one of the beautiful things, you mentioned transformation. One of the beautiful things about transformation is I teach people these tools and techniques that you don't have to believe it. Just do it and you'll get out of debt. It's not clever finance or anything. It's using your imagination. And I get emails every week. I just got a beautiful one from a guy, has his first name, that's my last name, Blake. And he wrote it and he put in capitals for the first time for decades, I'm debt free.
Wow.
And when you get to that point, my goodness, you feel free and you feel like you can conquer the universe. But when you've got this debt, you're constantly aware of it. And of course, once a month, you go onto your online account and you look at it and you go, oh my God, no, what did I do? How am I going to get out of this? And those thoughts go out to the universe and they come back and give you exactly the same. So there's tools and techniques we learn to change the way we react to the situation we don't want. And then it miraculously changes, it miraculously disappears. Or as Terry Lynn would say, some sacred hand comes in and just makes it all go away.
So when you're dealing with your students in your transformation course, and you have someone who you can see they really have no clue who they are, where do you begin with them?
Well, I've learned that one of the secrets to my business success is to get the hell out of the way and let everybody get on with the work.
Oh, well, okay, tell me more. What do you mean?
Not to interfere. You know, Sun Tzu said it one time that the best leader is the one whose people say we did it all ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you set up a system that you know works and a program that you know cannot fail and you can only succeed so long as you complete it, then I don't have to get involved. But if people have questions and answers, we have private places where we can exchange information, and everyone needs a helping hand every now and again or a bit of encouragement. But physics is physics. You see, you don't have to believe in physics. You can't fight it. It works. Physics is physics. Science is science. So it doesn't. Even if you go into the transformation course, and it's really an experience, not a course. It never really ends. It's 30 days to do it right the first time, but most people just stay with it.
Doing it over and over.
Yeah, because you get deeper and deeper into it.
Without giving away your secret sauce, is there a way you can sort of say what are the elements of it that make it work?
Yeah, so the first part is get back to your individualism, what you were born with, this magical, brilliant spirit that you are that's about to have a physical experience, that the world, for one reason or another, has sort of compartmentalized and made you think you're somebody else. So we break down that, or if you like, we peel the onion of that and get back to the basics. And then the foundation of science, how does the observer effect work? It's a bit of magic, little magic wand. How does string theory work, and how does time work? And so when you understand all that, you think, my goodness me, I am now omnipotent. The kingdom of God is now within. And so having got to that, you learn to control your mentality so that you can't be affected by the good or bad opinion of other people. You've got to get back to being an individual, because when you start your first venture, whatever business field or arts field it may be in, you have a right to expect that everybody you know is going to pat you on the back and say, good for you, go for it. But that's not what happens.
No.
Sometimes just out of love, people fear you're going to make a fool of yourself and they try to talk you out of it and put you down. And sometimes out of jealousy, and sometimes out of other things, so you've got to learn this mentality control. Very, very important. That's a starting point. So it's almost like you arm yourself, put on a coat of armor, ready for some kind of battle or interaction. And then the middle part is, okay, now it's you, and now you have this understanding and this measure of control, and you're feeling really great. Now let's deepen some of those things we were talking about a bit earlier. So now we're going to extend our senses, we're going to deepen our intuition, and we're going to learn. This is particularly important for men. For women, it's much easier because women have a much closer connection to their intuition. But for men, we have to work at it a little bit. And so there's tools and techniques so that we can really start to bring intuition into our lives.
Yeah.
We'll replace analysis or paralysis by analysis primarily. And so that takes over all of our lives. And then with that new power, we direct it at something. So then you have to go away and decide what you want to be when you grow up. And then when you decide that,
and start dreaming and imagining
we use techniques. I have one which uses time and imagination together. It's called time imagination. I'm English, so I'm allowed to catchphrase now.
Great, of course.
so and that's what it is. And so we use time imagination. And so I've had a wonderful life of a blessed life of adventure and a life with balance and all the rest of it, which has been great. But my greatest pleasure is seeing people who are doing transformation do even more than I could possibly imagine. It's just been fantastic. The things they've invented and come up with that I couldn't possibly imagine. That person that arrived in heavy debt, full of negativity, full of fear, is now making a huge difference in a certain aspect in the world in terms of what they've decided to, whether it's in art or whether it's in business. And that's an incredible thing.
You talk about mentality control and really sort of managing our mind so that we're not getting in our own way. Is that kind of the reason for mentality control? It's primarily because
I'm not a fan of self-help in general, and I certainly don't believe in positive thinking or the law of attraction. And I have lots of science to back all of that up, because I believe in both of those things, but not the way they're taught.
Not the way it's told.
Exactly. And so if following the way it's taught, you're just going to stay in quicksand. So the thing about positive thinking is it's impossible, because our thoughts happen in 500 milliseconds. You can't get in the way. You can't stop it. And you don't want to, because if you see a grizzly bear running at you, you don't want to stand there saying, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" So you want to get the hell out of the way. And so you need the negative thoughts sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you have a negative thought that is going to be self-harming, like oh my God, I'm in so much debt, how am I going to get out? You need then to take control of your reaction to that. So the simple reaction to that would be.
So it's not taking control of the thought itself. It's taking control of the reaction to it.
You have 100% control of how you now react to the thought you just had. So you don't beat yourself up. You just recognize it. Oh, and I do this all the time. One of the things about all the stuff I put out there is that it's authentic, because no one on the planet needs these tools and techniques more than I do. I've got all the hang-ups that everybody else has. So and I can quite easily think negative thoughts that could self-harm me, particularly about my business. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough?
Right.
Do we have enough money? All these kind of things. And when I have those thoughts, I have to then react differently. And I use my imagination to create a sort of what I call a mini mind movie that shows me succeeding. And then it lifts my vibration, and I feel my chest lifting up even when I think about it. So it lifts my vibration, and those kind of negative thoughts are left behind. And it's just a game we play. It's called, in various esoteric circles, it's called playing with energy.
So the thoughts that just come to us, we don't have any control over. We do have control over what we imagine.
Yeah.
What we sort of the mind movie that we're creating. And do you ever get to the point where the thoughts that are just coming to you randomly, you are diminishing as you spend more time imagining? Like, is there a formula there?
Imagine the thoughts you have for let's say it's 18 months while you're still in debt. Imagine the thoughts you have, and then you go for debt free. Well, imagine the thoughts you have naturally at that point.
Right. Okay.
I need to think positively because you'll feel brilliant. And so it's a natural process. Once you get out of the key thing is to get out of quicksand. And then once you're out of quicksand is to keep moving forward. I call it reacting forward, so that you don't get pulled back by all the people and the thoughts. And the true measure of freedom is to be independent of the good opinion of other people. So you've got to be individual. And
so when you're in quicksand, what's the first step you can take to start to get out of that?
Meditation. So yeah, same as Taylor would say, meditation. So I can't imagine my day without meditation, and I use several techniques during the day and at night. But the first one I give everybody, because whether you're 5 or 95, you can do it and succeed and get out of quicksand and keep moving forward. And that's the taking quiet time. It's a very, very simple meditation technique that allows you to stop fighting inside. And for a few nanoseconds during a 20-minute or 30-minute session where you're thinking, oh my God, my mind's going crazy, I can't stop the chatter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you will have nanoseconds of magic that you don't even recognize or see because it happens so fast, where your 100 billion neurons, 100 billion are up here in our brains, 100 billion neurons that normally during the day we slow down to allow us to interpret speech or our devices or whatever. My brains work incredibly. It's like sludge. So for a few moments every day, your 100 billion neurons can work magically at the speed they're supposed to, at the speed of light. And that's where all kinds of incredible things happen.
Hey, wait, that's a huge aha. So when we slow our bodies down and we're being in stillness, that's when
your brain works as
you're thinking, the ideas are going at the speed that they're meant to go, and we're not clamping them down. So if we're in kind of thinking brain and kind of charging through and kind of forcing things, we're slowing things down to an extent that it's not really operating at full. It's not operating at all.
It's operating at very low capacity because the thing how much the brain has to slow down to allow a man my age with big fat thumbs to be able to use a device that's this big. Yeah. My brain really has to slow down to allow me to focus on that. And if I didn't do that, and I don't take I have devices for work, devices for life, for my private life. And they're switched off probably most of the day in both situations because I don't have them on when I'm working. I don't have them on when I'm spending time with my family or when I'm out in nature. So without that interruption, my brain's able to do amazing things.
Yeah.
And I'm no different to
I would
else.
say with 7 companies at $1 billion, I would say you're doing pretty amazing things. And you're doing a lot of good for the planet. I mean, all your programs, like your transformational course and all of that stuff, it all goes to charity.
Yeah, all my proceeds.
I think that's just such a wonderful, if you want to take a transformation course, go take Trevor's because it's like donating to charity. And your charities now are mostly for animals, right?
It's both. So I have cancer research and development programs, but every cent goes into the lab, not into some executive's pocket for expenses. And then I do animal rescue programs, various different projects, and I get complete pleasure out of that because when people pay, their name goes on the inside of the stable of a horse or in the a place
I
where
love
there's
that.
a little dog kennel and stuff like that. Yeah, everyone wins basically, and I love that aspect of it. So you get knowledge, you get tools and techniques to help you be the best version of yourself, and in doing that, you make a difference in an animal's life. I don't think there's a better formula from a scientific standpoint than that, really.
We are getting very close to time, and I'm going to actually be really true to this now. So you have, I'm sure, a gift that you wanted to give our viewers. Do you want to tell us
Yeah,
what
actually,
it is?
it's very pertinent to what everyone's talking about today, basically. And so I do webinar series with various guests, and there are always people that are very difficult to get hold of. So I think you've been in one with Marie Manucheri, who's an energy intuitive. So she views energy from a slightly different way. She doesn't care about the science. You know, I like science. She doesn't. But she's a world-renowned energy intuitive and a medium. People have their own interpretation of what that means, but basically, I see her as ability to connect through to the 10 dimensions. And so we've done some work with her before, and it was hugely popular. So we have a webinar series coming up. There's 3 of them. She has a 1 year, 2 month waiting list just to speak to us. So it's a great honor to have her do these 3 webinars. She's doing them because her last experience, she said, working with people who understand energy was the most satisfying thing she's ever done. We were able to get really deep. So she's coming back, and she's going to do 3 things. That starts this week, I think, on Wednesday. And if you go to my website, trevorgblake.com, and then /energy, you get a discount and you can get in there. It's hardly any money at all. It's basically covering the costs of the infrastructure to do it.
Yeah. All right.
It's a great opportunity. She will draw your energy. She will read inside your mind and your soul, and it's a great experience.
All right. Well, Trevor, thank you. I should say Trev. I know you well enough. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy day. I know you have
it's fine. It's always a pleasure.
Walk the dogs.
You and I could talk for a day, I think.
I know. It's hard to keep it to, it's really hard to keep it to a half an hour. And we didn't, as it turns out.
That's because I'm a rambler. But thank you.
Right.
And you're doing a great thing here, by the way. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Trev. And we will talk soon. All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Oh my goodness. So if you are interested in, I want to just reiterate the sort of offer that I'm giving, because everybody else is sort of offering things. I feel like, you know what, I really want to offer something. And I have several programs. One is called Choose to Be You, which this show is named after. One is called See You to Be You. And those are both kind of programs. One is a 2-session program. One is a 7-session program, which can go on 7 weeks, depending on how many people are involved in it. And one is called Morning Metaphys, which is a daily, every morning for 15 minutes, where I just meditate and pray, and then I show up and I just let the spirit move me, and I say whatever is on my heart that morning to whoever is showing up. And it is a monthly thing that I have some people in there who've been there for almost a year. So if you're interested in any of these things, please feel free to go to lisataylorcs.com and use the code, because you've shown up here. This is your bonus. Use the code CHOOSE-ME, and you will get 40% off whatever you choose on that website. So there's also the potential for a healing session or healing treatment, or you can just go and kind of explore what's on the website. But if you have made the choice to be here, I want to honor that, because knowing that you are who you are and that there's no one else like you on the planet means that you taking the time to do this and to honor trying to be more clear about who you are and then going out and expressing that means the planet's going to be a better place, because you are being who you are. And so I just want to say thank you to those of you who have shown up and are here, and give you a little reward for that, because I would love to have you join me as well. It has been a joy and a pleasure to be in this seat and to be able to bring you these amazing people. I am so grateful for this panel of guests that we've had on today. And I really thank you for being here. And thank you for choosing to be who you are, because the world has need of you. So much love to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lisa Taylor, and this is Choose to Be You. We are bringing you this series of interviews that we did during a live event when I invited 9 global thought leaders to the table to talk about this subject. So please do watch for the other ones in the series. They are posted here on YouTube, and you can watch them all. Be in touch with me at lisataylorcs.com if you would like to know more. And I look forward to your being a member of this community. We are mighty, and we are strong, and we are changing the world. If you can see who you are, you can be who you are. and the world has need of you being authentically who you are meant to be. So much love to you, and do join us next time. Thanks for being here.